Hey guys, Mr. Kennedy here. Thanks for tuning in again. In our last video, we looked at how to use Minecraft Education Edition to start manipulating your agent and get him to do stuff. And the task that was set for you, according to the tutorial thing here, was we had to use first we used the chicken rain code and we had to manipulate that to figure out how far a cow could fall. And then in that last video, we had to figure out how to control the agent. So the tutorial got you to set some text commands. The tutorial here got us to set some text commands like forward and right and left to get him to jog forward and turn left and turn right, and you could just control him by typing commands into the chat box. And then we had to come up with a code that would get him to automatically do a 5x5 square, and I showed you how you could get him to do that in a couple of different ways. What we want to do now is move on to the next one, which is getting agent to build stuff. What you'll actually notice here is this activity is called agent build, and it says here your challenge is to modify the code to build the same structure but in a 5x10 rectangle. So if we come to Minecraft Education Edition and we quickly make a new one of these worlds again, these flat worlds, and we hit C to open the code builder and we have a look at these things here, there's a lot of tutorials here that you can use. There's heaps of them, and we're going to use these later through the series and do a bunch of them. But if you come to the ones called agent, there's one here called agent tower, which is probably the one that activity is talking about, but there's not actually one called agent build. Now we could do agent tower, which it looks like is going to get us to do a 5x5 box and then edit the code to do a 5x10 rectangle, but I'd rather show you how we can do this from scratch. So instead of doing this, we're just going to make a new project, and we'll call it agent build. Now it puts us in here with access to all the code commands, and the reason I want to do this is because it's one thing for you guys to be able to take the code that's given to you and change a couple of variables to get this guy to move 10 blocks instead of 5 blocks, but it's another thing for you to be able to create your own code and troubleshoot that and problem solve it and use a trial and error process to figure out how to get him to do what you want to do, and understand that it's okay to be wrong and just continue trying new things until we get it to work. So I've not ever got this guy to build me a 5x5x5 box before, and I want to do that now, and we're going to record it so that you can see how I would step through this. So the first thing I want to do is I've got to figure out how to get him to place a block. Now if I come into the code, nothing's happening here. This is a blank code. I'm going to have to get it to do a couple of things. If I want him to build, so I'll start with this onChat command like we have with the others. So when I type build, I want him to place a block. So let's get agent place, and I'll drop it in there, agent place forward, so he'll place a block in front of him. I'll hit the little play button down here to save that, and I'll type in chat build, and it tells me, oops, the agent is out of blocks to place. Okay, so I have to tell him what he's going to be equipped with, what's he going to use to build. So if I come into the agent command again, or do I go blocks? I wonder if I can drop this in here anywhere. No, I can't, because there's no spot to drop it. So what I'm going to have to do then is go to agent and use this one, agent set block or item. I might put that when I start the code. So when I start the code, and what do we want to build with? I might get him to build with, I mean, it really doesn't matter. I'll go with spruce planks because that's pretty standard. I'll give him a full stack of spruce planks, and he can have it in slot 1, that's fine. So now when I hit play and I come here, so if I type in chat here, build, there we go. Now I don't get that error message that I got last time. He actually has placed a block, which is cool. So now what I want to do is I want to get him to do a row of 5 of them. So I'm also going to need a little command here so that he teleports to me. So if I do onChat TP, agent teleport to player, and I just leave that wherever, so that'll be a thing. Whenever I type that, he teleports to reset me. So now I want him to place these blocks in a row. So I could get him to place a block in front of him and then just take a step backwards. So now he'll be moved back and there'll be space for another block. Now I could copy and paste these boxes another 4 times and have a whole bunch of rows here, but like we did in the last video, I don't want to do that. I don't want to clog up my code unnecessarily by just copy and pasting lines. I want to set this as a loop command. So I'm going to say here repeat and pop these inside there. Now if I play this, it will repeat 4 times. So I'll just TP to move him onto me, and then I'll do build. So he places a block, moves back, places a block, moves back, and he does that 4 times. Now the problem with that is I don't want it, like, I want to be able to decide at this point where I'm typing whether I want him to do 3 blocks or 20 blocks. I don't want it to always be 4 blocks. So how can I do that? Well, in the code here, instead of saying repeat 4 times, I can change this to a variable number. So if I come here and I get a new variable, and I might call this amount. And I just drop that there. So repeat X amount of times. Now, when I believe, so if I come here and say move to me, and then I say build, it will throw an error or nothing's happened. So it needs to know how many times. And if I say build 3, no, okay, it's not working. I'll just figure this out, and then I'll sort it for you. Okay, really easy. All I had to do was up here on chat command build, so the command has to include something else. So there was a little plus there, and I just clicked on that, and then I changed from num1 to the variable I created here called amount. So now I've got on chat command build amount, and it will repeat this the amount of times. So whatever you type here, whatever number I put there, it will do this loop that many times. So if I go play, and then we do build 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's done that 5 times. So that's cool. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to get him to do that row in a square. So I want him to do that and then turn left, or I want him to, you know, place the blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I want him to turn and then go 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. So what am I going to do here? Now all I want him to do here is I want him to turn left and then do that whole thing again. So if I add here at the end of that, he needs to turn left. So when I type build 4, he's going to place, no, I don't want that there. I want that after this loop. So now what he's going to do when I go, so build 4, it'll repeat 4 times. He'll place a block and move backwards. Place a block, move backwards, place a block, move backwards, place a block, move backwards, then turn left. Then I want him to do all of that again. So now I need another loop command. And I want to put all of this, including that loop, inside that loop. And I want this to be the same variable. Okay, so now he should, if I type build 4, he'll place a block and move back and repeat that 4 times. And then he'll turn left. And he should do that 4 times. I think that will work. Let's see what happens. So TP, and now build. Oh, I forgot to put my variable number in. So build 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, turns, okay. Okay, it's worked, but we've got a bit of an issue here. So my code has worked, but what's happening is he's placing 4 blocks down. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now he's on this square, and it looks like when he turns left, he's sidestepping. So what I want him to do before he places these next blocks down, so he turns left, and then I want that block to be there. At the moment it's forward a block and left a block. So I might get him to turn left, take a step backwards, take a step right, and then do those 4 blocks. Let's see how that goes. So he's turned left. Now I want him to move back 1 step and then move right 1 step and then place. Just move over here, teleport him to me, build. Oops, build 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, turn, move. Yeah, okay, so. Okay, so that has all worked except for the last block he can't do because this is in the way. He can't walk through it to place the final block. Interesting. So what I'm going to have to get him to do then, this might mean a bit of a rework. I'll need him to be up on top of the blocks, placing it in front of him. Alright, I'm just going to pause the video again and I'll figure out how I'm going to do this, and then I'll come back and I'll show you what I've done. Okay, I did a little bit of experimenting to show you what the next step is. Now, there were a few steps here. The first thing I did is I tried to say, well, I need him to, I said move up a block and then place, and I ended up with this huge zigzag where he'd move up, place a block, move up, place a block, move up, place a block, and I had this huge spiral. So then I started doing some new stuff, and I came over here just to give myself a little bit more room, and what I've ended up here is I duplicated the whole thing and just started playing around with stuff. So I'll step you through what I've done here. I just made a new command called test. You can see the process of this video, which is I'm just trying to get you into the understanding that trial and erroring things and getting it wrong and trying something else is good. So I've made a new one called a test, and what I've said here now, I'm to the point where I've got him doing a square, which is cool, a full square, but there's an issue, and I'll talk about it. So I type test. He's standing on the ground. What he's going to do is the first thing he does is he moves up by a block. Now we've got some loops, so we go to the center of the loop. He's going to place a block down, move back by one square, and that will repeat the amount of times that I've typed. So in this case 4. So he'll place 4 blocks, then he's going to turn left, and so he turns left and he's going to do that whole loop 4 times. Now that's working, but what's happening, you'll see, even though I've typed 4, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks. So I'll show you. If I say TP, moves him over here. Now because I've changed this, my number now, my word now is test 4, not build 4, just because I was testing it out. Test. So he's placing 4, and then when he turns and places 1, it's in that same row. So we end up with a row of 5, and we get our 5 by 5. Now, that's great that it's working if our goal here is to create a 5 by 5 square, but I don't want to have to remember that the number that I have to type here has to be 1 less than what I want. That's a bit confusing. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to change here so that instead of this just being when I type a number, I can make this variable actually become a math. I can add a math modifier here so that it will take that amount minus 1. And so when I type actually build 4 or test 4, beg your pardon, when I type build 5, it will only place 4 blocks. It won't place 5 blocks, it will place 4 blocks, and then I end up with a square that's 5. So all I have to, so this is where I defined the word, or I defined what my variable is called, and that's where I can type the number. Here is where I'm saying use that number. So it's here where I want to add a thing. If I get maths, I can just take, I'm going to use this first equation. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my amount variable and put it there on that first thing, and then say minus 1. So here is the amount of blocks that are going to be placed and the amount of times that it loops, instead of just what I've got here, which is just the amount. So if I knock those off, take this whole equation, put that here and here, now what's going to happen is it will place the amount minus 1. Yep. So let's try this. My command is test. In fact, at this point I can get rid of that one and I'll recall this build, because like I've said before, we want to try and keep our code as short and tidy as we can. So now if I come over here, TP, here he is, and we say I'm going to do a 5 by 5 block, so I'll say build 5. Now you can see what he did was he's placed 4. He went 1, 2, 3, 4, turn, 1, 2, 3, 4, instead of actually placing 5 blocks. So that's worked. He's got me a 5 by 5 square. Now for the next activity challenge that you're doing, the challenge on the thing actually told you, I think I've got it here, said to build a 5 by 10 rectangle. So you could play with those commands to solve that. But just for the case of expanding this and teaching you a step further, I actually want him to do a 5 by 5 tower. I want to also go up 5. So all I'd have to do here is basically add a whole nother loop where I can also get him to do all of that 5 times, including moving up again and doing it all again. So if I get another loop here, repeat this entire thing, and I need this little calculation again, that many times. Now it should do the whole thing 5 times, and we should get a 5 by 5 box. 1, 2, 3, 4, turn. 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 Up, and off we go. Up one, loops again. Up one, so now we've got 4 high, and he should do one more. Okay, he stopped, so we've got a 5 by 5 by 4, and the reason for that is because in my height amount, he wasn't placing the incorrect number, he was placing the correct. So the height loop here, this is how many times he's going to go up and do it. I don't want the -1, I actually just want the amount, so I can get rid of that block and just dump my build amount in there correctly. And now, just for fun, I might change his block to something else just so that we can see whether it's working fine. And this is our final version. Let's use note blocks because they've got a pretty cool texture on them. What's happening here? Save. TP. Here he is. And build 5. Note blocks. And they've got a square, you know, that black outline, which makes it a lot easier to count them than the bricks. Should have thought of that before. Maybe that's why all the redstoners use smooth blocks. They've got the outline. There you go. There we go. So now we've got our 5 by 5 by 5, and it's all done. If I really wanted to, I could also now figure out a way to fill that in, or to get him to, you know, when he gets to the top level, to come and do whatever, 9 more blocks across the top. So that's been a much longer video, but hopefully instead of teaching you a specific challenge that's set out in your book, it teaches you the process of trial and erroring to get stuff to work. I stuffed that up a bunch of times. You can see how many attempts it took me to get to that. So we started over here, place a block. Then I got him to place 4 blocks. Then he did it, but it came up in this weird pattern. And then I had to get him to sidestep it, which he did, but then we ran into it, and I had to solve that by getting him to step up onto the top of that block, which created an issue here. I got a spiral, and then I did it and he created it up in the air, which was annoying, and then I did it again and we just got a square, and then I figured out how to get him to do this, but it was one too long. It was going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I had to do the -1, and once I had that going, I could loop the whole thing to get him to go up, which I did 1 too few times because I still had the -1 on, and I knocked that off and changed our block, and we finally got this one that we wanted, which is perfect. So stuffing it up and trying again is okay. So I would really encourage you to just play around with these, get it wrong, figure it out, try it again, do it again, and slowly work through these activities and challenges by just learning stuff. Now remember, what's really important before I end here is that once we're finished, it's important, you guys are not here to learn block coding. You're here to have an introduction to a coding language, and in this case it's JavaScript. So I would really encourage you to spend 5 minutes at the end here comparing this code to your JavaScript and try and understand what's happening. So I've got 2 different functions defined here. When I type TP in chat, this function happens. Now the functions are set inside the squiggly brackets. So when I type TP on chat, this function happens, agent teleport to player. When I type this word in chat, this function happens that's inside this squiggly bracket. Now when you click a squiggly bracket, it gets that outline and another outline there to shows you where that function ends. So when I type build, this whole function from here to here plays. So it'll happen for an amount. So it'll let this happen how many times? Well, I'm going to define an amount. This is the word that I typed here. Remember when I made up the name of that variable? In this case, it was called amount. So that's going to happen however many times you've typed in is going to move up a block, place down, move back, and that will loop however many times -1, and then turns left, and that will loop however many times -1, and then it'll move up again, and that will happen an amount of times not -1, and whatever. Eventually that loop will finish. You get the idea. So it's important that you spend some time to understand that, because that's kind of what the purpose here is to give you guys an introduction to the code language and what that actually looks like in whatever the context is that you're designing for. Anyway, that's a pretty lengthy video. I really hope that helped. If you get stuck or you have any questions, send me a comment, send me an email, whatever it is, and I'm more than happy to help you out. See you guys next time.